Amid all the hype and fuss over Summer Luna, Kang Unlockable, and Muscubio, Odin got a rework that has made him both better and worse. And I know what you're thinking, how could it make him better and worse, Alex? Well, they made him a little bit easier to play, but then they made him a little bit worse at tier 3 and a little bit better at tier 4. Maybe a lot better at tier 4. So I got good news for the tier 4 Odin enjoyers, and I got not so good news for the tier 3 Odin enjoyers. But all is not lost. I still think Odin is a very, very good level 70, level 80 tier 3. He may still be the best at level 80 tier 3, but he's certainly not as good as he was. Now, before we get into proving that, let's go over what they changed, because they made changes to the 5th skill, and then they added hits to 4, 5, and 7. So we're going to use this comment from a YouTube video from 4 days ago when I covered the patch notes. Big shout out to Iron Reaper 927 for writing down the hits. I should have done this myself, but I didn't. The hits are 40 on the 5th skill, 15 on the tier 4, and 23 on the 4th skill. So from 4 to 7, it goes 23, 40, 15. Now, remember the 23, 40, 15, because as you're about to see, it's completely different. Now, his old 4th skill used to have 23 hits. Now, when you press 4 and you let that thing rock, it clocks in at an astounding, well, it clocks in at 28 hits. So they added about 5 hits to his 4th skill. Not quite astounding, but pretty good. They then added, if you let the 5 rock out, it goes up from 40 hits, which is the old number of hits, to 48 hits. So they added almost 10 hits to the 5th skill, as well as 5 to the 4th skill. And then the last change, the biggest change that they made, was to the tier 4 ability. Now, Odin's tier 4 ability, just to remind you, he summons lightning all around him, and as you move, the lightning moves with you, which is very, very cool aesthetically, and it also does damage. As you can see, as you get close to enemies, it does damage. It has a number of hits. So the old tier 4 for Odin had 15 hits. Let's see what the new tier 4 has. And of course, these hits also count Captain America's slam because it's unavoidable in the skill preview. So the previous count of 15 includes those hits there. But it now has 34 or 35 hits. This is crazy. More than double the number of hits with the same percentage on the damage. And that is really the key here, is the damage percentage staying the same with the number of hits going up. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. How do we know about the damage percentages? Well, if you go and look at the patch notes, tell you what you need to know. Now, unfortunately, they don't give you the hit count, but through the testing we just did, we know that they added 5 hits to the 4th skill, 8 hits to the 5th skill, and then they added more than 15. They added about 20 hits to his tier 4 ability. Now, for the tier 4 ability, that's huge because it's a 120% scaling damage attack that they essentially more than doubled. So it's going to do more than double the damage that it was doing before, which is massive. For the 5th skill, they added 8 hits and they didn't tweak it, so the 5th skill is also going to do more damage. However, the 4th skill is where things took the biggest hit. Instead of a 160 multiplier, which is massive, they nerfed it to a 70% multiplier. What this means is that although his 4th skill has 5 extra hits, each individual hit is doing only a fraction of what it was doing before, actually a little bit less than half. So they would have had to more than double the number of hits on his 4th skill if they wanted to keep the damage the same. So they did increase the damage on the 5th. They massively increased the damage on the tier 4, but because the 4th skill lost so much damage, right, it went from 23 to 28 hits. That only represents, if we do 23 divided by 28, that only represents about a 20% increase. But they more than halved the damage, right? They more than halved the damage because the percentage now is 70 instead of 160. Because of the fact that they halved it, even though they added 20% more hits, you're still going to see a decrease in the damage of that skill anywhere from 30 to 40%. Because the number of hits matter for certain content, but actually the scaling matters more. And the scaling is actually a big reason for why Odin is so strong. I still think he's very strong at tier 3, but this is why you're going to notice, if you didn't do anything to him and you just downloaded the patch and you played with him again, that at tier 3 he's actually worse. And unfortunately, this is something you can't really avoid. So yeah, he is just straight up worse at tier 3. However, he is a much better at tier 4, and the other thing you want to note is that his 5th skill is now instantly cancelable. As you see here, you can instantly cancel his 5th skill and it still keeps going. This is an undocumented, unpatch noted change, but this is really nice. It makes him even more proc friendly than he was before, because you can now, with a proc, you can easily do 1 cancel, 2 cancel, 3 cancel, 5 cancel, 4. And as you can see here, there's no hits at all until you start up the 4. So you don't want to start with 5. You want to end with 5 and 4 because there's lightning at the beginning of 5. But this is very, very, very proc friendly. And with just a little bit of dexterity in your fingers, you can make Odin extremely proc friendly. That is, of course, if you don't want to use a Judgment on him. Judgment still works really well. I just think that Energy also works really well. And then, of course, you can use Rage for ABX, ABL, GBR. And then if you wanted to, you could use a Mighty Destruction. Now, to give you guys a little bit of an idea of why they did this change. Now, they did this change because people were unhappy with Odin's performance at tier 4, particularly in ABX and ABL, where he wasn't really out damaging and outscoring long-time tier 4s like Thor, new tier 4s like Star-Lord, who has double support, or even in some cases tier 3s like Scarlet Witch. So that was really the encouragement that the devs needed to make buffs. And if, for those of you wondering why they changed the number of hits rather than changing something else, it's because there is a limited amount of score that you can get per hit. And so characters that have more hits tend to score much higher in ABX and ABL because there is a score cap per hit. So as long as you're fully saturating the score cap with every single hit, you don't actually want to deal more damage. You want to have more hits. You want to deal more hits. And that's why characters like Black Bolt are really good, because they have so many hits. That's why Luna is so good. She has so many hits. Back in the day, that's why Cable was so good, because with the chain hit and with that infinite 5th skill, you could rack up so many hits. And if you're fully saturating, you're getting way more score than a character who has very few number of hits. And you can actually use this to tell in a way if a character is going to be good for ABX, ABL or not, if they have a lot of hits versus not so many hits in their skill combo. So that's basically it for Odin. Now I want to leave you with a comparison to show what has been done to him at tier 3. Oh, and quick shout out to Hegor SD in the comments, who basically told the future and said, I don't know, feels like Odin at tier 3 is going to be nerfed to his 4th skill, so the tier 4 can be slightly better, and we feel like it's a bigger gap from tier 3 to tier 4. Holy shit, if this dude can't time travel, I don't know what, because he basically nailed it. Same stage, same team, same strikers, and same build on Odin. This is 87 of Mephisto, and we're going to go ahead and pop off and see just how much worse our Odin is after the tier 3 nerfs, because we want to get a gauge for how much, you know, he lost in these changes. I still think he's really good, and I still think he's one of the best, if not the best, tier 3, 70 or 80. Very, very tanky, very, very easy to play, and also very high damage, but I can certainly understand why some people will be disappointed. So about 30 seconds to get to phase 2. Very nice. You can now delay, you can even delay cancel 3 a little bit if you want. We're a little bit behind on the proc, so we're gonna let that play out and pop off here. Nice. Odie. It's crazy to see with a character like Odin how much percentages versus hits matter. And it basically tells the story that the number of hits is more of an ABX thing, whereas, you know, you don't actually need that many hits if you have really good scaling, right? Really good scaling, which is a high percentage on the attack, you know, over 100%. In Odin's case, it was 160%. That actually matters way more than having a lot of hits, which is very interesting, because I think we tend to overvalue hits because it's something that we can see, and it looks cool to have, you know, 80, 90 hits in a row, especially in skill preview. Whereas for, you know, the percentages, it's just a percentage. You're just looking at a number on a page, and you're like, yeah, whatever. Okay, it's 160. Like, what does that mean, you know? But the number of hits, like, palpable. It's like, or, yeah, palpable, I guess. It's like, oh, yeah, 50 hits, 60 hits, 70 hits. You're just going to do this forever? You're just going to never stop doing those stupid-ass purple spike attacks? Sure. He's powering up here. I do not care. We're just going to keep DPSing him. We are going to keep DPSing him. We're actually just going to try to work him into a corner here so that we can saturate the most amount of damage because we can kill him. We're going to, again, just keep trying to work him into a corner. Gonna pop the tier 3. There we go. So 2 minutes and 41 seconds. That's really good. I still think that's amazing for a level 80 tier 3 with a regular judgment and 1 or 0 Odin's blessings and no artifact. Like, I genuinely think this is really good. But when I show you how fast he was before, your jaw is going to drop. So I did this in 2 minutes and 19 seconds. This was the clear from just 7 days ago. This was 7 days ago, a week ago on YouTube. And here's my reaction. Do the 100-second challenge on 89. Wow. Do the 100-second challenge on 89. Wow. 3 minutes and 24 seconds left. And that face says it all. Yeah. So this is a pretty huge decline. This is over a minute slower. And I think the best I could do is probably 2:24. So about a minute slower. So any way you slice it, he's going to be a minute slower. That's pretty huge. What that tells me is he was probably a little too strong at level 80 tier 3. I know some people don't like hearing that, but it also doesn't feel good to invest everything into a character and tier 4 them and have their gap between tier 3 and tier 4 be very minimal, because then you feel like you wasted a lot of resources. And the cost to tier 3 a character, the cost to level 80 a character is nowhere near as expensive as it is to tier 4 a character. So the highest cost upgrade should have the biggest damage and biggest survivability and sort of the biggest buff and bump to the character's performance, in my opinion. So although it sucks to see Odin be slower, I personally think this was necessary. I think he's a much more valuable tier 4 now. I'm highly considering tier 4ing him, not only because I love his tier 4 animation. It's super cool to see all that lightning from, what's that ability called? Odin's Blessing. But also because he's a lot more powerful now at tier 4. And then maybe we can do a review of that and see just how good he is. But yeah, that is the case for Odin. He is a little bit worse now if you're noticing it. This is the video to explain why your Odin is doing less damage. And hopefully you can make the most of it anyways and enjoy the Allfather. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button. It helps with the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.